God's story. Jesus heals a man. So part of God's story is when Jesus healed a guy on a mat, and it begins like this. Once, Jesus was in a town called Capernaum. People in other towns came to hear him teach and see him do miracles. Remember, a miracle is something that can only happen with God's power. And since Jesus is God's son, he has the power to do miracles. He brought a dead man back to life, changed water into wine, and fed thousands of people with one little boy's lunch. Kids, Jesus has all the power of God, but came to earth as a baby so he could experience life like we do. He understands how we feel when we lose a friend, get made fun of, or laugh so hard our stomachs hurt. So while Jesus was in Capernaum, crowds of people flocked to see him. But Jesus wasn't in a big stadium. He was in a regular house. So it was packed. In fact, it was so crowded that every door and window was blocked. Good thing Jesus didn't have claustrophobia. That's a fear of being in a cramped space. You know, like an elevator or maybe a doghouse. Anyway, there were people stuck outside who wanted to get in. One of them was the guy laying on a mat, carried by 4 of his friends. See, he was paralyzed, so he couldn't walk by himself. Let's call this guy Matt, even though the Bible doesn't tell us his real name. Matt's friends knew Jesus could do a miracle and make him walk. Problem is, there's no way 5 more people could fit into the house. So you'll never guess what Matt's friends did. They climbed up to the roof, dug a hole, and lowered Matt down, right next to Jesus. Yep, that's right. A hole right through the roof. Let's hope it didn't rain for a while. Some people probably thought Matt's friends were crazy, but they were willing to do anything to get close to Jesus. Are you willing to do whatever it takes to get close to Jesus? Well, Jesus was thrilled to see Matt. He loves it when we try to get close to him and ask for help. In fact, as soon as Matt was lowered down, Jesus said, "Friend, your sins are forgiven." Jesus had never met Matt before, but he calls everybody who believes in him his friend. And he will forgive us for the wrong things we do too, if we want to start following him. Now, lots of people were there to see Jesus, but a few of these people didn't believe Jesus was actually God's son. These people were the religious leaders, and they were thinking in their heads, who does Jesus think he is? Only God can forgive sins. Jesus knew what they were thinking, so he said, I want you to know that God has given me the power to forgive sins. And just to make sure they knew he was God's son, he told Matt to pick up his mat and walk home. So Matt did. We don't know if Matt walked, skipped, or ran, but we do know that the people there said, "We have never seen anything like this." They were amazed. Whoa. And that, kids, is a miracle. And that's the story of Jesus healing a guy. So in case you missed it, here's the quick version. Matt needed a miracle. Crowds blocked him from Jesus. Matt's friends climbed on the roof. They dug a hole. They lowered Matt down, right next to Jesus. Jesus called Matt his friend. He forgave his sins. Then Jesus healed Matt. It was amazing. And that's a part of God's story. God's story. Jesus heals a man. So part of God's story is when Jesus healed a guy on a mat, and it begins like this. Once, Jesus was in a town called Capernaum. People in other towns came to hear him teach and see him do miracles. Remember, a miracle is something that can only happen with God's power. And since Jesus is God's son, he has the power to do miracles.